But what's your reading on how it's going to affect the markets? Is it going to be short-lived? What if it continues to spread, or even if it's just a problem contained within China for a prolonged period of time? Will that not significantly affect investments related to China?
Well, yes, in the short term, it's definitely going to have an impact on China's economy. And depending on how long China's economy basically is at a standstill, that will spread over into the other economies of the world. I know the Federal Reserve is already starting to reduce growth guidelines for the United States because of the slowdown in China. And there's even rumors that the Federal Reserve may even cut interest rates this summer to kind of offset the problems with China spreading the United States. And just to add to that, just overnight, the Chinese central bank actually took steps to add liquidity to their markets to try to keep the Chinese stock markets from going into panic mode.
But you said this is actually an investment opportunity.
It is. It's usually one you got to play very slowly because right now, usually the rule of thumb is when these outbreaks occur, the outbreaks start out in an exponential growth curve. So you go from 2 to 7 to 100, 700, 2,000. And that's kind of like what you're seeing in China. Usually the time you want to start investing is when the growth curve goes to a linear growth curve. That's going like 2, 3, 4, 5 in new cases. That usually tells you that the CDC or the health organization has got a really good grip and control on it. And that's about the time the markets start to really pick up and start to run on it.
So what you're saying is the dip that may be caused by the coronavirus will actually be an opportunity to buy low and then have it go up later on as everything recovers.
Correct, because I don't see any kind of long-term impact on this. So if there is a good sell-off in the stock market, I think right now investors should be putting together a wish list of companies that do business in China to try to pick those up on any dips over the next, 2 to 3 months.
All right, so a separate topic now. Tesla. A lot of people are talking about Tesla, that they have a corner on the market, and electric cars, Tesla electric cars, are the wave of the future, and therefore better invest in Tesla because it's already skyrocketing in the last, 4 or 5 months, and it seems like there's no end in sight yet. Is that your reading on the situation with Tesla?
Well, that's kind of a funny story. Mentioning Tesla stock is already up over 90% this year, and this
Right.
is on mid-February.
Mhm.
The problem I have with Tesla is I do believe long-term that electric cars are the wave of the future. I'm just not very sure Tesla will be a part of that wave for several reasons. One, um, Tesla is not turning a profit. Just last week, it actually said it's going to have to raise an additional $2 billion for its company. It's taking on debt, it's issuing new shares, and its balance sheet looks terrible, and still hasn't turned a profit. If you look at its competitors, General Motors and Ford, they all turn a profit. When the electric car really starts to take off, I have a feeling you're going to see General Motor, Nissan, all those really pile into the market and be an additional headwind to Tesla.
So you don't necessarily subscribe to the notion that Tesla is so far ahead of the others technologically that their cars are really going to be superior sooner and therefore establish a foothold in the market, that the competitors, even though they're larger operations, the competitors really won't be able to supersede Tesla in terms of who's buying whose electric cars.
Correct, because right now those other companies, General Motors, Fords, they're all building up huge war chests of cash to deploy against Tesla when the time actually is right. And I'm sure right now, if General Motors and Ford, if the CEOs are really smart, they're buying a Tesla car and having their engineers take it apart and design their own version of that same car at probably a cheaper price.
But you agree that electric cars, no matter who's making them, or no matter how many are making them, electric cars will be the mode of transportation for most people in the future.
Correct. I definitely agree with that. Electric cars will be the wave of the future.
So therefore, invest in electric cars, but not necessarily with Tesla.
That's correct. A good case in point, Motorola made the first cell phone, but Motorola today holds almost no market share in the cell phone market. So just because you're the first to the market doesn't mean you'll be the leader of the market.
Good point there, Mark. Okay, next topic. The economy. Now that is a big factor in any kind of a presidential election. Uh, President Trump is pumping up his what he describes as his huge economic success, the job rate, more jobs coming to America, coming back to America, et cetera, et cetera. So he's using his economic numbers to promote himself, that he should be reelected again. What's your reading on that? And what's your reading, first of all, on whether the economy is as good as Trump says it is? And secondly, will it hold up to the election?
So the economy is doing much better than it has over the past decade. But even so, you look back at beyond this decade, you go back to the 1990s, the 1980s, with interest rates and inflation being as low as they are today, we really should be pushing somewhere around 3.5% to 4% GDP. But right now we're chugging along at about 2.5% GDP. I think a big portion of that, why GDP is not taking off, is because of the tremendous debt load that's on the economy. But that's another story for later. So
So, so the economy is not as good as Trump says it is, but it's a lot better than it has been.
exactly.
Will it hold up for Trump to get him reelected?
I think it will hold up. There's going to be a little bit of a slowdown inside here based on the coronavirus with the slowdown in China, but I think that's going to be very short term. And then once we get past that, I think Trump will be the favored um, candidate running in the election for several reasons. It's very hard to beat an incumbent president, and secondly, it's also very hard to beat an incumbent president that is sitting on such a huge amount of cash as he is from contributions.
All right, Mark, before we close, generally, what is your advice for investors now in the stock market? Good time to invest, a time with some reservations, a bad time? What's your recommendations?
I still think it's a good time to invest in the market. My only concern, kind of in the short term, is the markets have made kind of a huge run up here in the last 3 months. So there should be some kind of nice pullback of 4 to 5%, but we haven't seen that yet. So if you do decide to go into the market right now, don't deploy all of your cash at one time. Do a little buying here, a little buying in a few weeks, and if you get a good pullback, then deploy the bulk of your cash into that.
Right, Mark, for those who would like to get more information from you and find out more about you, how would they go about that?
Uh, You can contact me at my email. That's mark@vereglobal.com. That's Mark, MARK, at Vere Global. V as in Victor, E as in Echo, R as in Romeo, E as in Echo, global.com.
Okay, Mark Collinsworth, thanks very much for being with us here. It's been interesting, once again, as always, talking with you about your perspectives on the marketplace today. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much.